SimTheWorld here. We are back with Car Mechanic Simulator 2018. So, if you watched last episode, you'll know we're jumping into this Mercedes-Benz SLS AMG. So this is a full engine repair. Let's go take a look. We've got a few things we need to discover here. We got to change the oil, the engine, the crank. We already know a piston and ring needs replaced. Crankshaft cap. This whole thing, oh, the crankshaft too. This whole engine must come out of the car. We're going to have to tear it completely down, which is why I want to dedicate a episode to it. We also have some brake issues to take care of and a rear muffler to take care of. So let's go ahead and jump in. I actually want to start up front here. We're not going to do too much. I am going to take... I thought I was in the engine. Let's take a look here. Okay, now we are. That was weird. I don't know how we got the battery out. Maybe it was through the suspension. The battery's underneath the car. I wanted to take a look here and make sure that the brake components were replaced. And then we'll go ahead and get underneath the car and do the rest of the brakes. The focus of this episode, of course, is not going to be strictly the brake components and things like that. I did just want to take care of this real quick. We'll be underneath the car anyhow to take off the gearbox and get everything taken care of so we can pull the engine. But we can go around and replace all the brake components too. Not a big deal. This should be an interesting job with the series. Now that we're done with the story orders, if you haven't noticed, we're picking up customer orders, giving us the opportunity to go and take a look at what I'm hoping to do is go through and look at all the different DLC engines, play around, get a feel for these cars. I actually really like this one. The drive shaft is enclosed. Do something a little bit different. I feel like once you get underneath the car with the suspension and the drive shaft, the gearbox, so much of that is just generic. And I know there's different gearboxes for basically every car, but at the same time, the flywheel and all of the actual gearbox components are all the same. It really doesn't feel that different. So with this, seeing, different components, we got the gearbox, of course, in the rear. That's why you've got the enclosed drive shaft, because that's basically just a really long transfer case. Though, don't quote me on that. I certainly don't know anything about European cars. That is just how I expect it to function. Almost done here. Let me take the starter off. We're going to actually get to take the drive shaft off. Oh, so we do need to keep these tires off. Good thing I checked. Didn't want to do all this work and then have to mess about. Get the brakes done here. We'll get that drive axle off. I think we need to replace the fuel pump back here too while we're at it, so we'll do that as well. Yep. Fuel pump looks bad. I don't think I've got one on me. Let me see. I probably will just repair that real quick. Let's get the gearbox off. And now we can take off the drive shaft. And that should be ready to go. I'm going to jump over to the repair table. I guess we'll repair all this stuff. This will be nice. We'll use this for future builds. I think the fuel pump was in that group. Not many more times we'll be able to quickly just run through that like that. At a certain point, we're going to, of course, in the new game, Car Mechanic Simulator 2021, there will be mini games and other little things that we do to complete the repair jobs. If you've seen our demo video, we go through some of that in more detail. I think Brakes are done. Let's go check to make sure we found everything. And that takes care of that. Car is loud. We got the rear muffler. Let's lower the son of a gun and get the engine out. Would be cool to see a little unmount the air filter base. Alright, so we got some interesting stuff here. Air filter. So I think we need to take all the air filter stuff off. And of course, instead of doing little snaps that we could do nicely and keep it all together, the engine has these stupid clips. Now, if there's anything I'd love to see changed is getting rid of these clips and doing something different. Not sure if that's going to happen. Certainly doesn't look like it. See, can we pull the engine out now? Yeah, we got to get rid of that oil reserve. Interesting. So this is completely new territory for me. I don't think I've played and taken this thing apart. So the oil reserve is in the front of the car like that. That's so strange. I wonder if that's to help cool it. Got the radiator there. We didn't drain the oil, so that was an expensive way to do it. Now that should be something where the spill drops down and we could like hire somebody to come clean that up, or we grab a mop. I don't know why there's a $100 spilling fee. I don't know about you guys, if you've done your own oil changes or anything like that. There's always things dripping all about. Any mechanic knows this is not a clean industry. You can just see by our garage, there's just trash littered about everywhere. So I don't know why we get a charged fee for dripping a little bit of oil. So we're going to rip this apart. I'm going to tear this apart off camera, and we'll come back and, go through the assembly process together and look at all the components that make it a new DLC engine. Just like a couple episodes ago, we're going to be trying to repair this engine to 100% condition. Of course, the goal of this is to kind of take a look at the assembly process of the 159 Mercedes-Benz engine, and of course, we've got a lot to look at. This is probably one of the most complicated engine assembly jobs we're going to have in the game. Certainly the most interesting one I've seen so far. You'll have to bear with me. Sometimes not all of the parts made it into the cart. There are so many parts on this engine, it's hard to make sure we got everything, so get ready. We're going to be going back and forth a little bit between the store, getting everything we need. But with that said, this thing is remarkable. I'm excited. I'm excited to show you guys everything that goes involved. Because tearing it down was very interesting. It wasn't just a tedious point and click. There's a lot to do. And of course, that starts off with the basics. We got to put the pistons in. We got to do all that good stuff. But this is about where it's going to end on, our usual assembly. Of course, we get the alternator like we normally do. I don't think I have a fuel filter. We're going to have to grab that on another trip to the store, but we're not going to do that right away. I think we've got enough work ahead of us here. So we got the engine head, and you'll see this thing is massive. And this thing plays a lot of different roles here. Let's take a look, and this is where we've got our camshafts, of course, installed, and you're going to see how this all assembles together. The timing components on this job are just insane how intricate they are. Of course, I do like getting some of this little easy stuff done as we go along, too. Always need spark plugs in a car. They're always there, I guess, unless they do electric. I wonder if the new game, if they're going to do an electric DLC. That would be really, really interesting. I hadn't even thought about that until now. got to get Elon Musk on the phone, drop some Doge, and get some of get us a DLC with some electric cars in it. Tesla would be fantastic to see. But getting back to this build, look at this timing setup here. We've got timing shoes all over the place. We have 2 timing chains. Keep this engine moving. Keep everything in line. Just incredible, the amount of detail and engineering. And I assume that, you know, especially if these DLC cars, they work with the manufacturers of the actual car. So I assume that a lot of the stuff is at least visually correct. You know, maybe not all of the parts that actually go into an engine are accounted for, because this is just a game. But a lot of the detail and engineering and the layout, I'd assume, are pretty much on point, which makes this just crazy to see. I'm gonna go ahead and get all the accessories on the front end taken care of. We got the timing chains in place, but we do have everything on top of the engine to deal with next. You know what? I think I did pretty good on parts. So here is where things get interesting. The cam gears you can do at any point, but you do need to put those in first. Cam shafts are next. And that's kind of different. I feel like a lot of the time you take the gear off the shaft, and then you know, pulling the shaft is the last thing you do. But when you're disassembling the whole engine, you know, you pull those off first, and then you can get to the timing components. So be aware that if you are working on this car, if it comes in as an order, you'll disassemble everything on the head. You can pull these camshafts out, and then you can get to these gears. Once you do that, you can get to the timing components, remove the shoes, remove the chains, and you're well on your way to getting the engine head off. A little bit of a mind twist there, but of course this whole car, everything is just feels brand new. You know, a whole new assembly method. You're about to see we're not even done yet. Let me go ahead and get this engine head taken care of and fully assembled. Zoom out just a little bit, get a better look. Now these caps, I do kind of wish there was, you know, maybe it's not realistic to what the part is, but if you could, I know some of the cars, they come in an assembly pair where, you know, one part will put all of these in and you just put the bolts in. I feel it's a lot more tedious to come through and do 20 of these. Or I think it's 16. There's 8 and 8. But a couple too many extra. But we'll get this engine head on, and we're actually most of the way through this build. This customer is going to be super happy. Again, we didn't have to replace everything. You know, some of these components here and there were taken care of. Were fine. They didn't need replaced. They weren't burned out or anything. But since we're going to all this trouble, we might as well try. Got the fuel rail in there. Now we get to the intake base, and this thing is huge. This has a massive intake for the air. It's really crazy how much is getting pushed through here and how well it's channeled. This, again, I'd love to see how this car actually performs in real life, how it runs. Getting a deeper dive into that, I'm sure, after this episode. Once it's all recorded and out there, I'm going to be digging in further to see just exactly how that works. Let me go grab us a fuel filter and we'll be done. With that on, I think we're good to go. I do want to mention the engine stand. You can see the outline of the drive shafts coming all the way off here. I don't know if that's a glitch. I don't think you can put it on while it's on the stand. Certainly wouldn't make any sense in real life. Go ahead and install this. Of course, everything's at 100%. We are good to go. Just means, go ahead, is there anything? Yeah, we got to get all the air filters in place. The oil reservoir we got to put in too. I was just thinking, where do we fill up the oil? And of course, we'll actually have to wait until I get back underneath the car. Can't forget these annoying clips. Customer won't take it back if there's not every clip in place. Again, I want to see this in any new title of the game. I want to see these snapped and locked onto the base. I feel like most cars these days, they are attached to the air filter base. They're just kind of like snap swivel stuff. Nothing you have to pull off and lose. That's probably why they're attached to the air filter bases now. You know, on real cars, because everyone is losing those stupid little clips. We are... Boy, we're getting close to being done. Let me get the gearbox on here. Then we can get the back tires on. We'll get some oil in this engine, and the customer should be happy and off on his way. And of course, this gave you probably the best look at this DLC car. We essentially tore the entire thing apart. We had to remove all the tires. We had to take off the drive shaft, and we saw the engine built from the ground up. I think with the spark, the starter. We got to replace the starter. Won't be long where I won't be able to find that in the store like that. It will be in its own electronics page, which I'm all right with. Any way of breaking these parts off in the store and categorizing them will be better off in the long run. Get the oil in. This thing must take a lot of oil. It's huge. And that's probably good enough for me. Don't want to overfill it. I don't think there's anything else we need to install. Our engine should be good. Go ahead and see what the customer thinks. Everything's checked. Everything's checked. Check marks on the engine. Brake problems taken care of. Car is 27 grand. Oh, should have bought a brand new car for that, but of course, probably couldn't have bought that car. So I think we did good today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. Thanks for watching as I simulate my life one game at a time. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any of the future action. You can follow on Twitter for updates to future games being played, as well as follow on Twitch as I'll occasionally stream live. Thanks, and I'll see you next time at SimTheWorld.